In this demonstration, I'll show you how ImpairMaster can easily generate impairment rating reports based on the 5th edition of the AMA Guides to the Evaluation of Permanent Impairment. For this example, our fictitious patient fell 30 feet and landed on his upper back. He complained of neck pain radiating down his right arm. 16 months later, after a maximum medical rehabilitation program and an optimal period for physiologic recovery, an examination disclosed a 20% sensory deficit in the C5 area and 50% loss of power of the muscles innervated by C5. The patient also had limited cervical flexion to 30 degrees and right rotation to 50 degrees. X-rays revealed a 20% compression fracture of L2. Let's see how we do this impairment rating using ImpairMaster for the AMA Guides 5th edition. We'll start by creating a new exam and specifying the patient's name and exam date. First, I'll click the New Report button. Then I'll enter the patient's name, an optional report reference, and I'll leave the date of exam as today's date. Clicking the Save button will initialize the report, so we can go ahead and open it up for editing. The impairment editor divides the browser window into two parts. On the left is the impairment navigator, which is used to find the impairment you need to enter, and the right side shows the generated impairment rating report. Let's enter the cervical range of motion. In the impairment navigator, I'll click Spinal Impairments, then Range of Motion, and here on the cervical tab, I'll enter 30 degrees for flexion and 30 degrees for right rotation. When I click the Save button, ImpairMaster generates the report to include these new findings. The report now shows the flexion and right rotation measurements along with their whole person values. The total is now 5% whole person for the cervical region. Let's continue and enter the lumbar compression fracture. In the impairment navigator, I'll click on Spinal Disorders, then Lumbar, then Fractures. I'll select L2. I'll enter 20 in the compression fracture field, and then click the Save button. The report is now regenerated, and you can see that it has included the compression fracture in the calculation. Finally, let's add the nerve impairments for the sensory and motor deficits associated with C5. In the impairment navigator, I'll click on Nerve Impairments. Then I'll select the C5 nerve root. Now I'll provide the examiner's finding of 20% for sensory deficit and 50% for motor loss deficit. I'll click the Save button. And since there are no more nerve impairments, I'll click Done. You can see the two new impairments for the C5 nerve root. ImpairMaster determined that the C5 nerve root has a value of 30% for motor impairment and then multiplied it by the grade of 50%, which was determined by the examiner. The result is an impairment of 15% left upper extremity. The sensory value of C5 is shown to be 5%, which is then multiplied by the grade of 20%, giving 1% left upper extremity impairment. The summary now includes the left upper extremity impairments, which are combined together. 15 combined with 1 equals 16%, which is then converted to a whole person impairment of 10%. ImpairMaster then combines all the whole person impairments together. 10 combined with 5 equals 19% whole person. So for this exam, the final impairment is calculated to be 19% whole person. It's worth noting that while in the report editor, I can hover over the various impairments to see the citation of where in the AMA guides the values were taken from. For example, if I hover over the C5 nerve root impairment, you could see that it shows me that these values came from table 16-13 on page 489. Also, if I notice that I made a mistake, I can just click on the impairment I need to change. There's no need to go back through the impairment navigator to find the impairment. I'll click on flexion and you can see how the cervical range of motion form pops back up. Let's say I meant to enter 20 degrees instead of 30 for flexion. I can change it and then click the Save button. You'll see that the report was regenerated with 20 degrees of flexion instead of 30 degrees. When the report is complete, it can be converted into a PDF by clicking on the small printer icon in the upper right corner. Here you can see each impairment that was entered into the exam, along with the citation to the AMA guides in the right margin. At this point, you can download the PDF to your local workstation. For more information on ImpairMaster, please see the comments section for this video or visit www.impairmaster.com. Thanks for watching.